For this question 4, we are going to express this fraction into a partial fraction. So first step, we have to identify whether our fraction is proper or improper. So you can see at numerator, this is a quadratic polynomial. For denominator, after we expand this x squared, so you will get the x cubed. So this is a cubic polynomial. So when denominator power is greater than numerator, this fraction is a proper fraction. So we can see the ranking. This is quadratic, this is cubic. So cubic is bigger than quadratic. So therefore this is proper. That will be our first step. Using the proper fraction, only we can express it in partial fractions. So second step, we are going to check our denominator here, our divisor here. Is it already factorized completely, especially for this quadratic. So we notice that this quadratic can be factorized some more. So we have to factorize our divisor completely. Later, when we want to express our partial fraction, we will split according to the factor from the denominator part. So that's why it's very important we double confirm our denominator part here, our divisor here must be factorized completely. So this quadratic, it can be factorized to 1 plus x, 1 minus x. Because a plus b, a minus b, we will get a minus b squared. So this factorization, it only will equal to 1 plus x, 1 minus x. It will not equal to x minus 1 because that will be difference. That will be our second step. After we done our second step, we go for our third step, where we will start split our fraction into the partial fraction according to our factor we have. So we write our fraction here with the denominator in factor form. So we can see we have repeating factor. We have 1 plus x, 1 plus x. So these two factors are repeating factor. So when you want to split it into partial fraction, we will split according to the factor. For the first factor, 1 minus x, it doesn't have any problem. For the second and third factor, we have to use the concept of repeating factor. So the repeating factor will do it. For the first time, we will take the first factor, and then the second time we will repeat it. So when repeat it will become square. It means 1 plus x, 1 plus x, we repeat the factor. So that will be our third step, split according to the factor. And then our step number 4, we are going to identify the ABC at the numerator part here. When we have linear, so our numerator part will be a constant A, because partial fraction always go for proper fraction. So proper fraction means the ranking at the numerator must be smaller than denominator. When here we have linear, after that we must have smaller, which is constant. When our denominator is a linear, then our numerator will be a constant. So for this is a linear factor. You can see 1 plus x is come from repeating 1 plus x. 1 plus x is a linear factor. So up here will be a constant c. So that will be our step number 4. Then we will start to build out the equation. The equation according our numerator part. So our numerator 5x squared plus 3x plus 8 will be equal to a. So for the a, they will time with the factor it don't have. The factor it have is 1 minus x, so it will time with 1 plus x squared. For b, you will time 1 minus x, another 1 plus x. For c, you will times 1 minus x, as we can compare the original full fraction at here. So the partial fraction just one part of it. So we will multiply with the part that don't have. Like c, if the part it don't have is 1 minus x. So we'll multiply with 1 minus x. So now we have an equation here. Then we have to solve what is our ABC. When you have 3 unknown here, we have to let it 3 times. So let the x value, which is come from the roots here, it will be easier for us to get the direct answer from A or B or C. So our roots here, we will choose 1. So we have 3 unknown, we have to let it 3 times, x negative 1. Another x, if we don't have any choices from the factor, we can use random numbers, use the number that we can make us easier to calculate. So I will choose 0. So the best selection will be from the roots, which is 1, negative 1. If we have no more choice, we use random number. Then we try to substitute our x into our equation here to find out our ABC. When we substitute 1 here, we will get 5 plus 3 plus 8. So you get 16. When I substitute 1 here, it becomes 2 square, become 4a. And then you'll notice that when you substitute back from its factor, you get 0. Get 0. So a will equals to 4. Continue, we substitute negative 1. So here will become 10. And then when I substitute negative 1 here becomes 0. I substitute negative 1 becomes 0. So I substitute negative 1 become positive. So you get 2c. So therefore c equals to 5. Then lastly, we substitute 0. So when we substitute 0, we get 8. And then the value that we already found A, we use back, which is 4. 4 times 1. And then B, we don't know. Then times 1 times 1, because 1 minus 0 is 1. 1 plus 0 also is 1. So C, we use 5. Answer, 1 minus 0 is 1. So our B here will equals to negative 1. So finally, after we find out all our unknown ABC here, we will write back into our fraction. So we'll write back into our fraction, which we can express it in partial fraction completely with the value ABC. So A is 4. And then B is negative 1. So negative times with positive become negative. And then C here is 5. So 5 over 1 plus x squared. So therefore, we see what is very important. So this is our basic when you want to express our fraction into a partial fraction. So if this, we do it wrong, everything will getting wrong. So we'll get 0 marks. So this is our basic, how we separate according to the factor. So that's why we have to double check it is a proper and our divisor is already in factor, then only we can get this expression correctly. Then after that, we build up the equation from the numerator part, and we start to let it 3 times because we have 3 unknown to get A, B, C here. So finally, we have to express that in our partial fractions. So that's all for our 5 marks here.